Okay, well, hi everyone, and welcome. Thanks for coming to learn a little bit about study abroad at St. Thomas. My name is Lauren. I'm one of the program managers in the Office of Study Abroad, and I'm just going to talk a little bit about the outcomes, options, how it works here. But before we get started, I am curious, how many of you studied abroad? And who thinks their student is definitely interested or most likely interested? So, okay, most of you. Anyone whose student might be a little more on the fence? Unsure, that's okay too. If you're also on the fence, that's okay, but I won't ask you to raise your hand. So I know today is an introduction to St. Thomas. We're welcoming you to campus, and I'm already here talking about sending your students away and going somewhere else. But like I said, I want to talk about some of the reasons students do it, why they do it, what they gain from it, and we also really want to view it as part of their St. Thomas education and have it be really integrated into their experience here. So on our slide here, we have our cohort from the Roman Power Program. It looks like they're somewhere in the lovely Italian countryside. This is a sophomore program that does core requirements. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. And then this question of ready to help them take on the world is almost a preemptive thank you. If your student decides to study abroad, your support through that process before, during, and after is really important. So they decide to do it. Thanks in advance for helping them with that. To start, I'm going to play a short video made by a student named Nick. He studied abroad in Uganda as part of his pre-med biology major, and it was a public health program.
At 1 in the morning, I stood a wide-eyed and naive 19-year-old in the delivery room of a Ugandan hospital. The craziness was apparent as 4 women gave birth inside the room. Another 4 midwives and nurses ran around while the normally lighthearted OBGYN, Dr. Beckson, decided on whether or not to perform a cesarean section. The hustle of the delivery room continued well into the night, and soon enough, my eyes were bloodshot. I walked over to the calmer side of the room to take a break, where my tired eyes caught the infant warmer. I went up to the machine and looked inside to see a newborn swaddled in a tiny pink blanket. She was calm despite the extensive ordeal she had just experienced. After about 30 seconds, I returned to everybody on the other side of the room, but my mind wandered back to this person born only a few moments earlier. My pensive side reflected on this unknown child. Where was she from? What was her family like? I couldn't help but think, what kind of a life was she destined to live? How much of it was in her control, and how much of it has been predetermined by the circumstances in the society around her? I grapple with these questions still today. The concepts of power and privilege seemed more evident to me then, in her life, than in any situation I'd previously encountered in my own. My perspective on society and subsequently the world changed because of my time in northern Uganda. In that moment, and in the period of reflection after, I was paralyzed by many different thoughts that I was introduced to and was now aware of. After deeper contemplation, I started to see myself become less self-serving and less self-centered. I had always wondered why I'd felt this urge to become a doctor, and I didn't really understand why at that point in time. As I look back on it, this was the first time that I began to understand the power of empathy. Empathy is a word that gets used a lot, but I didn't grasp the depth of that word until that moment. I became cognizant of what it means to care about others, and I started to notice the great influence that indifference and furthermore fear can have in my life. I never learned the name of this little girl, but I didn't need to. She inspired and sparked a change within me to understand how indifference and fear play a role in my life. It was enough to motivate me to critically think about what I believe in and to be courageous for what I believe is right, something I'm not so sure I would have comprehended without her. I think the namelessness is a poignant reminder of the delicate nature of this thing called life.
Yeah, so like I said, we view study abroad as integrated into the student's St. Thomas experience. So a lot of students, some might be taking core requirements abroad, others are really studying their major or minor in a new way with new added depth that they wouldn't necessarily be able to get on campus here in St. Paul. We saw how Nick was able to see differences in medical practices in Uganda versus the US, and how he learned from community members how different social, political, economic forces impacted healthcare and the community that that clinic served. And that those same benefits can really apply to any degree, business, communications, psychology, engineering. They all operate within a given country or culture that impacts those fields in different ways. And oftentimes, I think when we see something or experience something in a way that's different for us, we also see things that are normal to us in a new way and through a new lens. We also saw a lot of examples of personal growth in Nick's video. He talked about empathy and a lot of self-reflection and the role that he wanted to play in the world. And we hear that a lot from students when they come back. We see in them and hear them describe feeling more independent and having a new sense of self-confidence, an ability to handle ambiguity. Time management comes up a lot. And they've also often developed new intercultural skills and just furthered their ability to communicate more effectively with others, more flexibly with others, and to bridge cultural differences, whether it's from a different culture or a different personality or a different field. It's kind of opening up their ability to communicate well with others. We also hear a lot of common themes from employers today and the skills they need and those that study abroad often develops. In today's rapidly changing world, of course, hard skills and training are necessary for certain fields, a lot of jobs, and some of those are gained abroad as well. But we also really hear employers talking about how our new employees need to be good at identifying solutions to new problems, taking initiative, just that creative problem solving, being able to navigate unfamiliar situations. Workplaces are just changing quickly, and students that are able to adapt to that and think on their feet are in demand. And as students are learning to live in a new place and adapt, everything from going to a grocery store in a different way to taking classes in a new setting, they're having the opportunity to develop a lot of that creative thinking, just those new skills. And a lot of those skills are developed through these really hands-on opportunities. So obviously students are taking classes when they're overseas, they're experiencing a new academic system, taking classes from professors from a different country, maybe with students from a different country. There are also a lot of opportunities for the things listed here, like internships, fieldwork, service learning, research, language skills are a big one, and intercultural agility. And here we just have a lot of pictures from different programs of this, I think, is a marine biology program. Here in the center, the student's obviously in the ocean, and then we have a student doing geological field research in the top right. And I think those two are actually the same program. I think that's a geology program in Iceland. So really a really wide breadth of options that students are able to choose from and integrate into their experiences. So we are ranked number 7 in the US for undergraduate study abroad participation. Again, you see photos of other student groups in different locations. And about 47% of our students study abroad at some point while they're here. Some go more than once. And so I think at St. Thomas it feels pretty normal, but we do also like to stress to students that nationally less than 10% of students study abroad. So we want it to be a normal part of the St. Thomas experience while also appreciating it is something that makes students stand out, and it is a unique experience. And one of the ways we do that is, like I have been emphasizing, by integrating it into the St. Thomas experience. So students can go abroad during any term, J-term, semester, summer, academic year. There's a lot of flexibility in that for athletes, choir, really sequential majors. Should hopefully be able to find a time in there. And they're also fulfilling requirements that count towards their degree. So like I said earlier, core requirements, major, minor requirements. So it is advancing their degree, keeping them on track for that 4-year graduation timeline. And these are some of our flagship programs that we have. So these programs are all examples of those that are cohort programs led by St. Thomas faculty, St. Thomas students. We have some that are major specific, like Catholic Studies in Rome and the London Business Semester, and others that fulfill a variety of core and or major requirements, like the Roman Power program and faculty-led J-term and summer programs. So those programs on the left stay consistent from year to year, and our J-term and summer programs change regularly. We also offer a lot of programs through other approved providers that we've carefully evaluated and worked closely with. And those are maybe a little bit more independent experience, or there's just a greater variety in those opportunities. That's where students might be taking classes from faculty from that country. They might be enrolling directly in a university in another country. They'll all still have student support geared towards US study abroad students, but those programs can take a wide variety of forms. For semester and academic year programs, financial aid does apply, so the cost is pretty comparable to being on campus. Obviously, there are things like a flight and time off work to consider, but the cost of the program itself is pretty comparable. For J-term and summer programs, the same as for on-campus, financial aid generally doesn't apply. There might be some loan options, and we do have some study abroad specific scholarships that students can apply for those programs. We usually suggest students start to look at applying, choosing a program about a year in advance. They can start to look sooner. Again, if the major is very sequential and courses really have to be taken in a certain order, I'd suggest those students maybe look a little sooner, but generally about a year in advance for semester academic year. For J-term, we announce programs in February, the year prior to that J-term, so again, at about that year timeline. Yeah, and again, we have the same Roman Power group. I think this is the exact same group. This is Thanos, our director at the Bernardi campus in Rome. And again, yeah, we just have that question of ready to help them take on the world. So that is what I have to share. Again, just some of those reasons and outcomes and some logistical information as well. And we have time for any questions that anybody else has.
So
Yeah.
what is the Roman Power program?
Yeah, the Roman Power program is a semester program, fall semester of usually sophomore year is when it tends to work well to go. And the courses that are available are, again, for the cohort. There are 2 St. Thomas faculty members that travel with the group. And so they take classes from those 2 faculty members, as well as from our on-site partner that we work with in Rome. They live in the Bernardi campus together and have a pretty full semester calendar of different excursions. The classes are all designed to integrate Italy and Rome, what makes it unique to be studying those subjects in that location. And then, of course, they have time to explore as well. Yeah, does that give you?
Well, what are the classes like specifically?
Oh, there are quite a few.
So they can choose.
Yeah. Yep, so on our website, all of those classes would be listed. But yeah, there's quite a variety. Yeah.
How does an athlete navigate the study abroad stuff? Does the coach get involved? Just curious.
No, it would be the same process as as any other student, of course, they want to be thinking about their athletic season, what their commitments are there, the dates of the program. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah.
Are all the programs just one semester, or there is a year abroad?
There are year-long programs. Yeah, yeah. Most of the year-long programs have the option to be one semester or the other, or to do the whole year. But and sometimes students start out with one semester and then decide to stay, or start out for the full year. Sometimes students will apply for 2 programs back to back, so there's quite a bit of flexibility in there as well. I don't think there are many programs that have to be a full year. I think most can be either or. So, yeah, a good thing to be thinking about if they think they're interested in the full year. It's good to have kind of that plan A, but if they're not quite sure, they could usually come back halfway, at the end of the fall semester or something. But it'd be good to have both, kind of have both plans in mind for classes and know how all of those will work, what they want to take, kind of whether they stay for a semester or a full year. Yeah.
How long are the J-term or the summer programs? How many weeks?
Yeah, the J-term programs are usually about 3 weeks, anywhere between 2 to 3.5. They can vary a little bit. They're quite a bit fuller than a normal on-campus J-term, and so that's why they're shorter. Students will have some free time, but it is, just like an on-campus J-term, it's still a semester worth of work compressed into those 2 to 3 weeks. So they'll have a pretty different format. It's not like a few hours of class each day. It's probably some class and a site visit, maybe a field trip of some kind. Some of the class events might take place on a weekend or in the evening. So it's a pretty different schedule. And so that's why the duration can be different. And summer can vary even more widely. I'd say usually about 2 to 3 weeks, but then there are some pretty lengthy summer programs that could almost go the full 3 months of summer. Students could get anywhere from like 3 to 9 credits if they really wanted to have a full summer. Yeah.
How does housing work if they're, like, for instance, the sophomore year when they're still in the residence halls? Like, can they just do a semester? How does that?
Yeah, yep, they'll be able to work with on-campus housing, and their Res Life has a process and a deadline to indicate that they want to study abroad for that fall and then come back in the spring or vice versa. Yeah, and there are campus posting boards as well, even after sophomore year, if students are wanting to swap leases or things like that. So, yeah.
How many countries do you guys have study abroad programs in?
I have no idea, but it's a lot. we have a poster board if you come visit us at the info session, and I think we do have some numbers, but it's a lot. Yeah, you can go just about anywhere you want to go. So yeah, some of our most popular locations tend to be Western Europe, the UK. Yeah, the UK, Spain are especially high. Australia and New Zealand are pretty popular. But we also have programs throughout Africa. We regularly send students, especially to South Africa. We have a graduate group in Uganda right now. Pretty regularly send students to Asia, a little bit smaller numbers. That's been slower to open up after the pandemic, but really if you can name it, we've probably sent a student there at some time. Anything else you're wondering about? Yeah, well, my colleague and I will be at the info session, the info fair rather, which is just down one level. We're there for, I think it's like 11:45 to 1:45 or something. So if you think of other questions or have really specific questions, feel free to stop by and chat with us there, and I'll stick around here as well. So yeah, thanks for coming. Have a good rest of your afternoon.